On a frigid morning, Clara spotted a trembling dog curled in her backyard, its breath shallow and weak. Rushing closer, she noticed the animal clutching something tightly in its jaws, its fragile shape barely visible beneath the frost. Clara's heart raced as she dropped to her knees, trying to get a better look. "Please, help!" she screamed, her voice cutting through the icy air as the weight of what she was seeing sank in. Clara's breath fogged the air as she knelt beside the trembling dog. Her hands shook as she reached out, feeling the chill of the ice-matted fur beneath her fingertips. She had never seen an animal in such poor condition, and her heart ached. Despite its exhaustion, the dog's eyes continued to stay fixed on Clara, seeking understanding. "Hey, buddy, it's okay," Clara whispered gently, keeping her voice calm and soothing. The dog's eyes softened, but it still wouldn't release the object in its jaws. Clara watched as it trembled, understanding that it might be too scared or protective to let go. She wanted to help, but felt helpless about pushing the dog further. Clara hesitated, unsure whether it was right to force the object from the dog's grip. Its haunted, desperate eyes were filled with a mix of fear and trust. Her own heart weighed heavy with uncertainty. She wondered if prying it free would cause more harm than good, knowing patience might win the animal's trust. Thinking quickly, Clara ran to her porch and grabbed an old, worn blanket. Slowly, she approached the shivering creature, keen not to alarm it. Draping the blanket over its gaunt body, she watched as it flinched but didn't run. The small comfort seemed to show the dog that she wanted to help, awakening hope in her heart. Though Clara knew stray animals often wandered onto her property, this dog seemed different. Something in her gut insisted that this was no ordinary stray. Shivers ran up her spine as she glanced again at the object, half hidden by frost. She wondered what events had led the animal to her doorstep with such determination. Examining the mystery in the dog's jaws, Clara whispered, "What are you holding?" Her voice was more to herself than the dog, but maybe it understood her intention. The dog whimpered softly, its small body shaking against the cold ground. It felt as if both Clara and the dog were sharing an unspoken worry. Realizing she needed backup, Clara quickly picked up her phone and called the local animal shelter. Her voice wavered with urgency as she explained, "There's a dog in my yard. It's freezing out here." The person on the other end assured her that help was on its way. Clara could only hope they'd arrive soon. After hanging up with the shelter, Clara settled next to the dog again, careful not to startle it further. Silent snowfall surrounded them, creating a hushed moment between Clara and her new guest. She whispered reassuring words, hoping they'd reach the frightened animal's heart while waiting for the promised help to arrive. Finally, there was a knock at the gate, and Clara greeted the shelter worker. He took one look at the struggling dog and nodded grimly, recognizing the severity of its condition. Clara stepped back, letting the professional take a closer look. She stayed by the dog's side, sensing that it helped to calm the poor creature. With a grim look, the worker examined the dog, nodding to Clara with a serious expression. "It's hypothermic," he stated, bending closer to the shivering creature. Clara mentioned an odd thing in the dog's mouth, but the worker hesitated to disturb it yet. He seemed focused on the dog's safety first, knowing it needed warmth immediately rather than trying to satisfy their shared curiosity about the found object. "Let's focus on warming it up first," the worker suggested, quickly wrapping the dog in layers of towels. Clara helped, carefully adjusting the cloth around the trembling animal. As they lifted it toward the van, the dog let out a weak growl, clutching the object tightly. Clara felt a mix of worry and relief, hoping the warmth might reveal more once the dog felt safe. Clara walked alongside, her unease growing as they approached the worker's vehicle. There was something almost deliberate about the way the dog held onto its mysterious possession. "I don't think this is just a stray," she murmured softly, watching its eyes follow them. Her comment seemed to hang in the air, unanswered, as they continued their determined march to warmth and safety. At the shelter, the dog remained guarded, still clutching the frost-bitten item tightly. Clara watched intently, not wanting to leave and let go of this odd mystery. Curiosity flooded her mind, urging her to stay even when others might have returned home. She felt the weight of something important hovering over the situation, compelling her to stick around and discover more. "It's not letting go," one of the workers commented, scratching his head in puzzlement. They observed the dog's stubborn hold, its fur covering most of the mysterious object. Clara moved closer, trying to catch a glimpse of what it might be, but it was well guarded beneath the layers of the dog's protective grasp. Her curiosity only deepened, knowing that whatever it was, it mattered to the dog. A vet arrived to carefully examine the dog, deciding on a gentle sedative to ease its tension and release its grip. As the sedative took effect, the dog's jaws relaxed, and the object tumbled to the table with a soft thud. Clara leaned forward, her heart pounding with anticipation at what had finally slipped free, something mysteriously important to the dog. In the surprised moment that followed, Clara reached for the object, her hands tingling from the cold, rough fabric. It was an oddly shaped bundle, wrapped in layers of dirty material. She paused for a second, puzzled by the unique features and wondering what could be inside. This unexpected discovery rested heavily in her palms, brimming with silent questions and hidden answers. "What is this?" Clara questioned aloud as she carefully began to unwrap the fabric. Her fingers trembled slightly, driven by a mix of nerves and determination. The vet frowned too, examining the swathes of cloth but staying silent for now. Each layer revealed seemed to deepen their curiosity, making it clear that this was no ordinary item. As Clara continued to unwrap the fabric, she felt an unshakable dread creeping into her mind. It seemed as if the bundle bore a heavy, mysterious weight of its own. Slowly, the object revealed itself. It was small, worn, and the fabric around it was frayed and old. Beneath the final layer, a familiar symbol began to emerge. Clara stared at it, feeling as if she'd seen it somewhere before. The symbol's presence added a new intrigue and suggested a story yet to unfold, connecting to a mystery left untold. As the vet carefully cleaned the mysterious object, Clara watched closely, her heart in her throat. Slowly, the cloth was peeled away to show a small backpack. It was bright but worn, with a familiar cartoon character smiling on the front. Clara's heart dropped when she saw it. She couldn't shake the feeling that she had seen this backpack before, perhaps on some news channel or in a report. "This looks familiar," Clara mumbled, her voice shaky with realization. She glanced around at the shelter staff, who exchanged worried glances among themselves, unsure of the step to take. Clara's mind raced, trying to make connections. She just couldn't ignore what seemed a nagging recognition. It felt like a puzzle piece fitting into place, though the bigger picture remained blurry. Racking her brain, Clara tried to recall any stories of missing children in the area. She rifled through thoughts of news stories, hoping to pin down why this backpack seemed important. Meanwhile, the dog stirred slightly on the table, its dark eyes watching her intently. Something about its gaze suggested a depth of understanding, as if it was trying to communicate something crucial. "Could this be related to something bigger?" Clara questioned aloud, holding the backpack carefully. Her voice was hesitant, yet hopeful. The vet, realizing the potential gravity of the situation, advised, "We might need to call the police. Better not touch anything more." Both Clara and the vet knew they had to be cautious with what might be a piece of significant evidence. Even before the vet's suggestion, Clara felt chills that had nothing to do with the cold. There was an uneasy feeling that the dog's appearance on her doorstep wasn't just chance. That dark, foreboding thought sat at the back of her mind like a shadow. It wasn't long before the police arrived, their faces growing serious as soon as they spotted the small backpack. One officer carefully inspected the item, turning it in his hands. Clara watched him closely, searching his face for any clues he might find. His expression confirmed her fears. The puzzle seemed to be coming together, piece by connecting piece. "This fits a missing child report from last year," the officer finally said. Clara's heart skipped at his words. She felt her pulse quicken, hearing the seriousness in his voice. The backpack wasn't just a child's, It was part of a terrible story. Unfathomable questions weighed on Clara, pressing relentlessly. She wondered how she'd become part of such a complex and heart-wrenching situation. The dog, seemingly understanding the tension in the room, perked up slightly. Its ears twitched in a way that suggested it was listening. The officer turned his attention to the vet, asking, "Can you run some tests on the dog? We need to learn where it's been." The room buzzed with urgency as everyone realized the answers might lie with this brave animal. Considering the dog's frostbitten face and thin build, it was clear to Clara that the dog had braved harsh weather for some time. She felt a growing sense of pity and awe for the creature that had made it so far. It had fought against impossible odds to get to this point. Now, it seemed to be the missing link in a story needing resolution. The officer turned to Clara, eager to know every detail. "Tell us, how did you find the dog?" Clara paused for a moment to collect her thoughts before speaking. "It just came right up to me, out of the blue," she said, her voice breaking with emotion. The officer listened intently, scribbling notes, aware how these details connected to a deeper mystery. The officers carefully placed the backpack in an evidence bag without disturbing its contents. As they prepared to leave, the dog let out a whimper, its gaze locked on the officer holding the evidence. There seemed to be a silent communication, as if the animal was urging them to understand what the backpack meant. Clara felt the weight of the moment, sensing that the dog was somehow tied to this mystery in an important way. Investigations soon revealed the backpack's origin. It belonged to a child named Lily. Clara shivered, recalling how the media buzzed with stories of Lily's disappearance a year ago. The memory of the frantic search and sad updates rushed back, each detail clearer than the last. Clara's heart hurt thinking about the desperate parents and the profound void Lily's absence had left in her family's life. The dog's actions suddenly took center stage as the missing child case reopened. A vet looked at the animal's paws, brown from miles of walking. "This dog's been on a long journey," he stated, noting how worn they looked. It was unusual wear and tear and suggested extensive travel. Clara started to realize that the dog may have known more than they could ever have guessed. "This dog has been on the move for a long time," the vet continued, examining its worn paws. Clara watched in awe and sorrow, feeling a mix of emotions about the dog's lonely road. She imagined it wandering through forests and towns, driven by some unknown purpose, and admired its determination. The thought of its possible struggle for survival stirred a sad wonder in her heart. Realizing the importance of the dog's connection, the police decided it might help if they took the dog to the place where Lily disappeared. Clara insisted on accompanying them, unwilling to let go of the mysterious bond she felt with this brave creature. She knew instinctively that the dog was trying to reveal something, and she was determined to see it through to the end. Arriving at the location, the dog's energy visibly changed. It began sniffing and circling along a wooded path with determination. "It's trying to lead us," an officer pointed out, his voice filled with urgency. Clara could feel the anticipation building as she watched the dog navigate the area, as if retracing familiar steps in hopes of unveiling a hidden secret. Clara didn't hesitate as she followed the dog, her heart racing as it let out a sharp bark. Sensing they were on the brink of a significant discovery, Clara was filled with nervous excitement. It became evident that the dog was guiding them towards something that had been overlooked, a detail that could change everything. Without warning, the dog stopped abruptly, a low growl emanating from its throat as it pointed to a thick cluster of bushes. Clara's breath caught in her throat as officers carefully approached the area. Their hands parted the branches, revealing hidden objects beneath the leaves. An uneasy feeling took hold as Clara considered what they could be on the verge of discovering. Under the thick foliage, a small, weathered doll lay. A doll that looked remarkably like the one Lily was last seen with. "Oh my God!" whispered an officer, his expression filled with shock at the discovery. The years seemed to weigh down the atmosphere as everyone processed what was in front of them. It was then clear that the past had a way of reaching out. The dog barked once, and its entire body became tense, focusing intensely on the ground nearby. As officers gently dug through the earth, they found a decayed shoe, partly buried. Its presence linked directly to a heartbreaking chapter, serving as evidence of a story the dog had been trying to tell. Clara's heart stopped for a moment as everything she saw took on a new light. The image of the shiny object the dog held flashed in Clara's memory. She had seen this before, on the news, on missing posters about Lily's disappearance. The realization forced her to gasp. Soon, the area was buzzing with activity as forensic teams hurried in, eager to pick over the signs around them with great care. While others focused on the scene, the dog kept pacing. It was a shift no one could ignore. Its motion drew puzzled glances as the animal seemed to almost guard its space. "It's like it's been protecting something," one officer observed, his gaze following the dog's every step, wondering what had led to its persistent and anxious behavior over this place. When the pieces came together, Clara felt a wave of emotions threaten to knock her off her feet. The once anxious dog now had a story. It had led them all right to the heart of it. News spread quickly. The discovery put life back into a cold case, breathing new hope into old uncertainties. With more people looking in and fresh leads coming to light, it shook up everything they once thought impossible. The unsettling thought was the area, disturbed many times over the months, hinted this wasn't simple. Officers formed a picture of what might be possible. It seemed the dog might have followed Lily's trail, or some part of it. Even in all its silent courage, the idea of it all was difficult to shake. The mystery didn't lessen with time. Instead, its scope grew and grew. Emotion filled Clara when she spoke about the dog. "It's almost like it never stopped trying," she said softly. Taken by the loyalty shown by the animal, Clara and the shelter staff pledged it would get the care it needed. Their respect for it was clear, and they chose to stand by it, helping it mend from its incredible journey with everything they had. Under police care, the dog showed a calmer side, its eyes still watchful but steady. Clara visited often, feeling herself drawn to it. Whenever they met, it seemed as if a connection formed, like mutual admiration. The brave creature had shown a side of humanity she would never forget. Somehow, its story became entangled with hers, feeding her sense of duty and wonder every day. The media picked up on the story, calling the dog Lily's guardian in headlines that captured public interest. It stood as a beacon, inspiring everyone who learned about the case and encouraging new tips and sightings. Investigators kept examining the area, geared up with pressing questions as more evidence surfaced and demanded their urgent attention. The dog became a living sign of hope in a world of questions. Unravelling the pieces, police drew a clearer map of Lily's last known moments. Information came to light that left everyone silent. The dog had been Lily's, most likely a comforting companion during her pushes through the wilderness. This twist painted an unforgettable picture of protection and company, showing the true extent of the creature's commitment and the poignant hope nestled within the dark echoes of the past. In the confusion of the storm, Lily was taken away, leaving her in danger. The world seemed terrifying and vast. As time passed, the dog kept coming back to that same place. It showed maybe the dog saw something important. Clara felt the weight of every step as they retraced what the dog must have seen. It was like the animal held more secrets than anyone expected. When they examined the doll left behind, experts found tiny DNA traces from someone unknown. It wasn't anyone expected, which was a surprise to everyone. This new clue changed things. Suddenly, a case that seemed impossible got a big break. Everyone hoped it would bring answers, finally showing what might have happened during Lily's disappearance. The evidence was pointing to someone who was missed before. When Clara heard about the DNA match, she felt both angry and relieved. At last, there seemed to be a path to justice. The dog's actions were leading the way, guiding investigators to new clues. Clara felt glad that the search was finally making progress. It seemed like the loyalty of a dog was the missing piece needed to put everything together. It was amazing how the dog had kept evidence safe. As Lily's story unfolded in the courtroom, emotions ran high. Evidence gathered from the dog's actions silenced all doubt. It was hard to hear what had happened, but knowing they were closer to the truth made it easier. Everyone watched as piece by piece the picture grew clearer. With new evidence, there was no denying the facts. Lily's family grasped at hope through the difficult proceedings. Each day at the trial, Clara took her place and the dog faithfully sat beside her. When the verdict was read, cheers erupted and Lily's family felt a long-awaited justice. Clara knew she couldn't let the dog go, deciding right there to adopt it. The bond they had grown was too strong to ignore. As they walked out into the sunny day, Clara promised the dog a joyous life ahead. Clara and the dog settled into a life of newfound peace. Together, they embraced life with joy in their hearts, grateful for all the support and encouragement from those around them. Clara watched the dog closely as they both adjusted to their new life. The once hollow eyes now shone with a quiet, unyielding strength, bringing a warm sense of joy to Clara's heart. Life was new, and every day brought fresh wonders to the pair. On a breezy spring afternoon, Clara and the dog took a walk through their favourite park. The air was filled with the sweet scent of blooming flowers, and a gentle breeze ruffled the dog's black fur. As they strolled down the path, Clara marvelled at the simple joys found in each sniff and playful dash the dog made. Everything felt alive again, painting their days with warmth and colour. People at the park often stopped to admire them, recognising the dog from local stories. Smiles and waves greeted them as they passed by. Near them, children played, laughter reminding Clara of Lily and the lives that had been saved. As they took a rest on a park bench, the dog lay beside Clara, placing its head gently on her knee. "You've done so much," she whispered thoughtfully, her hand stroking its fur in a gentle rhythm. Watching the sunset paint the sky, Clara couldn't help but ponder how a single stray could change so many lives. The sun cast a golden glow, bringing a sense of peace to the serene scene. People passing by reacted with gentle nods, recognizing the strength and beauty of their story. Clara felt a gentle warmth grow inside her, grateful for this unbreakable bond made through challenges overcome. Weeks passed, and Clara made it her mission to share the dog's inspiring story, spreading hope throughout the community. As she spoke, the tale touched many hearts, instilling a renewed sense of trust and togetherness. People came together around the story of bravery and resilience, building new connections. This tale of a courageous dog and a compassionate woman became a beacon of hope for all. Clara and the dog were hailed as local heroes, their bond inspiring everyone in town. When they walked along the path where Lily's journey had unfolded, it felt like visiting an old friend. The park paths held so many memories. Side by side, Clara and the dog found closure in their extraordinary adventure. Their story became a light in the darkness, casting away shadows and bringing warmth to cold nights. Even now, as they walked through life together, the dog remained a beacon of light, showing others that incredible stories can arise from the simplest acts of courage. Both had become symbols of hope and healing.